Hello, welcome back to Kemba's World. My name is Kemba, and today's video is a storytime video. And the storytime for today's video is my relationship with my father and my father's side of the family, but overall just my father. This is a very emotional story to tell for me, and a very vulnerable story to tell. I debated whether or not to tell it, but I feel like I'm now in a place in my life to tell my story. So with that being said, let's get started on with the story time. So this it will keep as a reminder, and I'm going to probably say this throughout the video. As a reminder, this is a video, this is a story time that is happening as we currently speak. Maybe I'll give y'all updates after this video, I don't know, but this is a story time up to like throughout my whole entire childhood up to like this very moment. So let's start with when I was a baby, meaning when I was a baby. So I'll probably do a little story. I'm not going to do a story time on it, but if you guys don't know, I by my hands, like you can tell, like by my right hand, that this is like completely like stable, but my left hand is like struggling. So when I was pregnant, when my mom was pregnant with me, I ended up having a stroke, and while she was pregnant with me, and it didn't get diagnosed until like I was, from what my mom says, when I was like around like almost a year old, around like the year-old marking. So, and you hear me say like, oh, this involves your mother but not your father. This is where my father comes in. So when I was a baby, my hands will be balled up like this. So my hands will be balled up like this. So my mom will open up my right hand, and it will stay like completely open, like how it is like right now. As you can see, she will open up my left hand, and my left hand will go back to being closed. She tried it again, and same thing. Like I will always like ball it back up, and like I will always have it like my left hand like I'm ready to like punch somebody. So she told my father. My father told her like, oh, don't worry about it. It's nothing. It's probably something that she's going to grow out of. So spoiler alert, I did not grow out of it. My mom did not listen to my father. She took me to the doctors. The doctors diagnosed me with the stroke and then with mild cerebral palsy. So with that, now that I am now both of my parents, a partially disabled child, of course my mom adjusted to raising me, because she knew I had to be raised like slightly different than my other siblings. But my dad never adjusted. Like he did not care. It's not that he did not care. He cared, but it was over enough because while I was also while I was also in my like toddler years, in my, is it toddler years, toddlerhood, whatever you want to call it, during that portion of my life, I was capable of having seizures. I was epileptic. So with that being said, I was very epileptic. So my mom gave my dad and my dad's side of the family like a small like book on to read to and whatnot. So my dad, I am assuming that my dad and them read the book way too much and took it quite literal to the point where they legitimately took everything like quite literal. Like so you guys know like how when you give your children a bath, you fill the whole entire bathtub with water. With me, every time with my mom, I was able to take that type of bath that you give your children, but when I'm with my dad, I wasn't able to take that type of bath. Like the bath would always be filled up to like where it can only cover my lower half. Like it wouldn't cover like my top half. Like it will only cover like the lower half of my body. So like between like only like my lower half was in water, but my upper half was not. So like it didn't even come up to like my belly button. It was below my belly button. Like that's how low the water was. And like you probably think like, well, that's not a bath because a bath is like full of bubbles and water and whatnot. That's what they call a bath for me. So I didn't really complain or say nothing about it. Like I just let them do it and just called it like a day. So with that being said, like that era of my life happened, and then once I entered a charter school, that's when like everything came into what it led to this video today. So as I stated, I went into charter school, meaning I was in a uniform from elementary and middle school. I went to public school in my high school, and I'll get into that story. I'll get into that little tantrum later in the video. But so with this, like school was normal. Like my dad would pick me up from like my school activities and things of that nature. And that was that. It like elementary school was fine. It really didn't get bad until middle school. And I'm gonna tell you why. I was a victim of bullying when I was in middle school. So with that, my father never really like sat down with me and like try to talk to me and see like why I like and try to talk to me about the bullying. Like he was trying to change me. Like so a fun fact, this hair that you guys see me now and you have like seen in like previous like different videos and pictures online of me, I was never able to have like this type of hair or hair color in my younger years. Because my dad only kept me in two styles when I was younger. He kept me in kinky twist and Shirley Temple curls. I was only limited to those two styles because he thought that keeping my hair done would help the problem, but it didn't. So the kids will bully me because I always had like the same like two hairstyles like and whatnot. And he doesn't listen, so it just went back and forth, and like with him like physically abusing me, and I'm not talking about like your average like ass whooping or butt whooping or whatever you wanna call it. So with whatever you wanna call it, like it wasn't like your typical whooping. Like he like physically like left marks on me, and like his whole entire side of the family did. And every time he did, I would go to school, and the school would see the markers on me, and the school would call DCF, and from DCF there was cases, and then from the cases, then if you ever been through like DCF, I don't know if it works the same for in every state, but for here in Connecticut where I live, Like basically they do home visits, and then if everything checks out, then the case gets closed. Like, since I always lived with my mom my whole entire life, of course, like, the home visits went fine and whatnot, but it wasn't until, like, after, like, the case got closed where stuff hit the fan, where shit hit the fan. Like, guys, when I'm telling you shit hit the fan, shit hit the fan. Like after the case was closed, like, my dad would not talk to me for like months on end. And like, mind you, when I was younger, I would always call my dad every Friday night at 6 p.m. The only times I did not call him was when he had his weekend with me. Other than that, I was calling him religiously every Friday night at 6 p.m. So when the case was in, he would never apologize for what he did. He just like basically like brushed it underneath the rug. Like, you know, like how black parents will be like, they will try to like come in your room to see like if you're hungry, or like give you a gift or like something, or surprise you with like a trip to like the amusement park or something. So he would do that. And like, I would thought it was weird, like, you went from without talking to me for like 3 to 6 months to like coming back into my life and acting like everything's all good underneath the rug. And like, I never really liked that, and I never really understood it until like I got very much older. And like, don't get me wrong, like, looking back on all this now, I can see like the toxicity, I can see like the unhealthiness, because I'm trying to give y'all the most maximum information without making this video like 2 hours long. Keep that in mind. So like, if this is like all over the place, I am like deeply sorry, but like, I want to give y'all key information, but not make it like seem like I'm giving y'all my whole entire backstory. So like, the bullying situation happened, and also with like the bullying, I was also a special ed kid. So again, I don't know if it works the same in every state, but basically I had different like homework and assignments in my classes, and I had extra help and things of that nature. So with that being said, I didn't even found out about I had these meetings until I got into high school. I had IEP meetings from middle school. I had IEP meetings since the day I entered elementary school to high school. My last one was in my senior year of high school. And my mom would constantly call him to like say like, hey, Kim has her IEP meeting on this day, can you come? And he never showed up. Like, he never showed up. He didn't answer the calls. He just did not care. He did not take an effort into my academia life. Like, it was bad. So there was one instance in high school where it was my last IEP meeting, right? And I had told him something like how they was gonna keep me in high school, but I was able to get this like little program and whatnot. And he did not like that, and he wanted to come to the meeting and like give his voice and opinions and on it. And I'm sitting there like, I don't think that's how that works. Like, you can't pick and choose when you want to be active in certain parts of my life. Like, you should have been coming to these IEP meetings since day one. And the thing is, his sister, aka my aunt, had find out that he was like being like this towards me. And she had asked my father, like, have you ever been active in her academic life? And he shut up. He completely, like, shut up. And I never heard, like, a look out of him. And, like, you probably think, like, well, so what happened with the meeting? Like, the meeting went on as planned. It's just that we didn't tell him that we ended up lying. I ended up lying to him, saying, like, oh, it's happening on a different day. I will let you know. But in reality, it was happening on the day that we planned. But we just didn't tell him because we didn't want him. Me and my mom did not want him there. Because the thing about my father is that this man talks a lot. Like, this man will talk your ear off. Like, he will talk and not shut up. And so with that being said, like, it just made the whole entire situation uncomfortable. And then the second biggest instance of my father is when I told you guys, I was a charter school, and I went into public school for high school. My dad had a fit when he heard that I was going to public school, cause me being charter school for legitimately half my academic life, he had a fit. And because we had told him, I had called him and told him, and he had argued with my mother on the phone in my bedroom on a Friday night, arguing back and forth about why it's better for me to go here to the school that I graduated from instead of the school that he wanted me to go to. So they argued back and forth, and then one day he's taking me home and whatnot. He's taking me home, and me and him get in an argument where he's saying oh, well, if you go to public school, you're going to end up on drugs, you're going to end up on alcohol, you're going to end up pregnant, and things of that nature. So me and him get in an argument outside of my house, and where I lived at the time, it's notorious for police to pull people over on the street for speeding and whatnot. So a cop had overheard us arguing back and forth because we was getting loud. So the cop called for backup. The backup came, talked to us. I had to summon my mother, who was upstairs in our apartment cooking spaghetti. And she was trying to digress the situation. And then from that situation, of course, the officers dispersed. The officers told us to just go about our separate ways and cool off, which I was completely fine with doing that. But as me and my mom was heading back into our apartment, my mom had heard my father say that he wishes that I was never his daughter. So mind you, I never caught a whiff of him saying that. My mom heard it, and I will always believe my mother over my father, simply because my father is a very different person to me than he is to my brother that I have on his side of the family. But she heard it, and then mind you, when this event happened, this happened in June of 2014. My father did not talk to me until my birthday that next year, which was May of 2015. This man went a whole entire year without talking to his daughter because he was simply so upset with me about how that situation turned out, and that he almost got arrested. And the fun fact about this whole entire ordeal is that I did not find out how he really felt until 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he had told me that he still hold the grudge against me of me trying to get him arrested. And that he thought that I was simply out there getting him arrested. Like, sir, my mom has no reason to call the cops on you. So, I have no reason to call the cops on you. You are just too blind and ignorant to see that there was a cop across the street from your car when we was arguing about, like, legitimately. When we was arguing to see that they was already out there, but you just don't refuse to see it. Cause I can guarantee you, if we find those cops from that day, they could even tell you that they was out there. Cause like I said, the street that I lived on at the time, notorious for doing that, for pulling people over. So he didn't talk to me for that year, and from then on, he, like I said, he didn't talk to me for that year. But like I said, that's like the second biggest instance. The first biggest incident happened when I was 13. So like I told you guys earlier, I live with my mother. And with me living with my mother, every other weekend I would spend with my dad. And in reality, I just wish that I never spent a weekend with my dad, because you know, like how when you spend weekends with your parents, when you're a child, usually it's like filled with like fun things, like bonding together. That was simply not a weekend like that with my dad. He would pick me up on Friday night at 6 p.m. We would get dinner. Saturday would be him running around, doing errands that he needs to do. And then he would have his NA meeting at night. And then I would just, when I was younger, I would have to like sit through and listen to like former like drug addicts and alcoholics talk about their recovery process and whatnot. But when I got older, he just like stuck me into he like put me in like a different room, so that way I can eat dinner and watch TV to keep me occupied while the meeting was going on. And then Sunday would be church, and then we would go to church, come home from church, he would go to sleep. 6 o'clock comes, he drops me off back home, and then that next weekend will be my mom's weekend, but the weekend after will be his, and it was just rinse and repeat for the whole entire time until the last weekend. So, and the reason why I'm giving you this information is one weekend, he had picked me up from my house. It was like your regular routine weekend that I just told you about. But this Saturday, when we was getting dressed, I had asked him to help me pick out like some pants, because I did not know what pants he wanted me to wear. He goes into my pants drawer and he finds a drug pipe in my pants drawer. And to make matters worse, he didn't want to hear me out. He automatically assumed that it was mine. He yelled at me. He told me that I brought it with me from the ghetto / projects that I was living in at the time, and that he was disappointed in me and this, that, and the third. And like when I tried to explain myself, he just basically shut me down. He didn't want to listen to me. He just basically was so furious with me. He basically just told me to get dressed again, and that he was dropping me back off home. So he dropped me back off home, and then from there I did not speak to him for another 3 to 6 months. So you're probably thinking like, wow, your dad has like zero communication skills. He does not have the communication skills. So, and the biggest pet peeve, the biggest like thing with my father is that he has the mentality that children should be seen and not heard. So if I was ever to like talk about something or talk about anything to him, it just seems like I'm just complaining to him. Because I remember telling him that I, like, during like my middle school years, I was extremely like suicidal. And upon hearing this information, you would think that he would be concerned for his daughter. Like he was, but no, he just made it about him. Like he literally told me that, oh well, if you would have told me that you was going through this, then I would have helped. And I'm like thinking in like the back of my head, like, how am I supposed to tell you when you're literally an unsafe space for me? And like the thing is, with my father, he does not believe in therapy. The reason why the judge grant my mother custody over him is because the judge asked him, does he believe in therapy? And my father said no, hard no. And the judge actually literally told my mother that if I were to live with my father, that he thinks that I will end up like a literal serial killer. And that says a lot of information. Like I always say about parents is that with multiple children, that you are of course different parents to your children differently, because not every child that you're going to have is going to have the same parenting style. Like some children you need to be more gentle with, and some children you need to be more tougher with. With my dad, because I did say earlier that I have a brother on his side of the family. With my dad, he is two separate people. He is one person with my brother. He is the other person with me. They are two separate people. I feel like if you're a parent, like even if you have different parenting styles with all your children, I feel like if they were to describe you, it should lead back up to you. If you guys know what I'm trying to say. But if my brother were to describe my father and I was to describe my father, you would think that we are talking about two separate people and not the same person, when in reality it's the same person, just two different vast experience with the same person. So my dad literally tries so hard to like force the relationship that he has with my brother onto me, and like I don't like that. Like it should be our own unique little relationship and things of that nature. So it's just like very hard to be a daughter to my father, because I feel like nothing I will ever do will please my father. Nothing what I will ever say will please him. Like I could probably have a whole PhD, which I will someday soon, and my father will still not be impressed with me. Like my father never complimented me. He never gave me words of encouragement. It was just a whole bunch of negativity. And the thing is, my mother always told me that my father will always, when I was younger, my mother always told me that I will always see my father's true colors. I will always see like my father's true colors one day. And I always asked her, like, what do you mean by that? And she always said that I will see the colors one day. And that one day was a brutal awakening, because when those true colors finally showed themselves, life got a whole lot more interesting. I will say a whole lot more interesting, because I went from loving and respecting my father to being fearful of him. Like, I legitimately fear him. And I should not fear my parent. I feel like I should not fear my parent. But, you know, that's just me. And, like, I don't want to seem like, oh, I'm complaining throughout this video. I'm just legitimately so scatterbrained because this is, like, my 5th recording of this video. The first 4 times I legitimately was breaking down crying. So the fact that this is my 5th recording says a lot. But yeah, like, my father, like, and I remember when I came out to my father as a bisexual woman, and he was like, oh, well, you know that he was just, like, basically being like one of those, like, homophobic Christians and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're not a safe space for me anymore. Like, I'm done trying to I'm done trying to force a relationship with you that is always going to be unhealthy and whatnot. So with that being said, like, I could probably go on and on about this topic because this is, like, a pretty long topic. Because, like, if y'all guys want, like, an extremely detailed, and I do mean, like, a detailed video, that will probably come when, like, I fully cut my father and his side of the family out my life, because I'm on the brink of cutting them out my life. Because when I tell you I'm on a brink, like, it's like, you know when rope is about to break, and it's like that when you cut through rope, it's like that little sliver of, like, line before it officially cuts. That's where I'm at with my dad's side of the family. I'm just done. I'm tired of it. Like, I want to move on and move past this, but they're always just trying to do things to bring me back. Because, like I said, not only does my dad possess, like, the whole entire a child should be seen and not heard mentality, the whole entire family does. Because mainly my dad, but my whole entire dad's side of the family sees me as a 5-year-old little girl that just does everything that she told and doesn't have a voice and things of that nature. Because when I told you guys back in, like, my high school assignment story that my high school assignment gave me a voice, when I tell you I aired out all the dirty laundry, almost all the dirty laundry between me and my father, that shit was legitimately the thing. Because again, like, I love my father. He's the only father that I will ever get. But at the same time, like, he just has, like, too much narcissistic, manipulative, gaslighting personality traits that I just don't want to be around. And, like, I know, like, there's probably gonna be, like, some comments in of this video gonna be like, well, that's your father. So at the end of the day, that he's still your father, so you should, like, still make the relationship work. He is my father, but I should be able to choose to not let a narcissistic, gaslighting, manipulative person, because he has gaslighted me and manipulated me over the years, that, again, is probably a story time video in itself. Because when I tell you, this man has done a lot. Like, every time, like, I'm with him, like, because I will tell you this, both of my parents are baby boomers, but my mom is, like, the tech savvy baby boomer. He's just actually the baby boomer of the two. My mom was never the type of person to bash my father. Like, every time she spoke of my father was in the highest regard. She never spoke ill will of my father, but, like, every time I'm with my father and he talked about my mother, he will always speak ill will of her. He showed like no respect. Like he would try to gaslight me into like thinking that my mom was the bad parent for me and he was the good parent, when in reality he was the bad parent and was my mom that was the good parent of the two of them. Like it got to enough because I would always like defend my father to my mother in like the highest regard. But again, like I said, I got that true color awakening call and shit hit the fan, and it hasn't been the same ever since. Cause my dad wants me to repair our relationship. He fully wants me to repair our relationship. Like he thinks that us not being the way that we are when I was younger, you know, me being a daddy's little girl type daughter, he thinks that is solely on me and not on him, that he never done anything wrong, that he was a perfect father, and that he never parented me, he never did any bad parenting to me, and this, that, and the third. Like, this man thinks like he's solely like the father of the freaking year, when in reality, in my eyes, he is not father of the year, not even close. Like, I don't know what to say to him half the time, because he's like you ever, like, when I talk to my dad nowadays, he is so, it's like so stiff talking to him. Cause you ever be on the phone, whether that's with like your close friend or like a family member, and like you guys don't say nothing for like a couple of minutes, and it's like that comfortable silence. Like, I don't have that with my dad. Every time I'm on the phone with him and it gets silent, it's just like that awkward silence. Like, you can hear like your thoughts and like whatever is going on outside of your house and like the environment around you, and like you can, like, it's that uncomfortable silence. Like, it's not like that. And like, he always tells me that like the ball is in my court, and that I just need to like fix everything my damn self, and that I just need to like grow up and just do what I need to do. So like, everything being put on me, it's like not healthy for me, because like, relationships are not a one-way street. Like, it's a two-way street. Like, both parties need to compromise, do 50-50, and like things of that nature. But he wants me to do all the work, and he just wants to like sit there and just do nothing. So maybe like like I said, maybe down the line I will create a longer detailed video, but like, I'm trying to keep this video within like reasonable distance of like being edited and whatnot. But yeah, like, everything, like, maybe there will become a day with my father where everything will be, I'm not gonna say everything will be perfect, where everything will be okay, because right now it's not okay, and I desperately wish that it was, because there was like many nights where I cried wishing that I was the daughter that my dad so desperately wants. Like, the perfect straight A, cookie cutter, doesn't do this, doesn't do anything bad type of daughter. But I'm not that. I'm not perfect, and I'm not saying neither is he, but at least like I can like accept my imperfections and my flaws, whereas he's like, oh well, I don't do anything wrong, and like I'm this way and whatnot. But with that being said, I think that's where, but yeah, But with that being said, I just hope that one day me and him can reconcile. Like, when I tell you guys that if he were to like do any of the stuff to me that he did to me to when I eventually had my kids, to my kids, it's a wraps. It's game over. Like, I'm not about to put my kids through the same traumatizing experience that I went to because their grandfather's just like stuck in his ways and whatnot. Like, maybe I'll redo this video, I don't know. But for right now, this is what the relationship is. Like, I remember like a few years ago, my dad asked me and this is how you know like he's like a narcissistic, arrogant ass person, because this is how you know. So a few, like, I would say like a little over like 2 years ago, like my dad had like called me and had told me like, hey, write me a letter and like explaining like how I'm an awesome father, how I'm amazing, and how I never did anything wrong, and that how you love me so much, and like this, that, and the third. He wanted me to write him a letter just to basically like boost like his ego and whatnot. And I so desperately wanted to tell him I can't do that, but I ended up writing the letter. But instead of like giving it to him, I wrote the letter and then I burned it. And you're probably thinking like, well, why did you burn the letter? I burnt the letter because if you guys don't know, if you write a letter to a person and you burned it, the reason why you burn it instead of like just throwing it away, you're basically rebuking like any like hold or any power like the person like has over you. So when I wrote the letter, of course I burnt it, and like I rebuked anything that all the hold and the power that my dad had over me. Because when I tell you, my dad is like the biggest hypocrite in the world. Again, this goes back to high school. When I was getting accepted into all my colleges, I applied to out-of-state colleges and in-state colleges. I wanted to go out of state for college because I spent my whole entire almost 25 years, because my birthday's in May, so I'm still 24 as a recording of this video. I spent like all 24 years of my life inside of Connecticut. Like, I never moved out of state. Of course, like, I've been to several different states. I've been to Cincinnati, I've been to LTA, I've been to Mass, I've been to Pennsylvania, I've been to South Carolina, North Carolina, like, but the only thing is I only been to these states if it was for either a family reunion or a school field trip. Like, I've never been out of state no longer than probably like 2 weeks at a time. And like, I told him that I wanted to like go out of state, right? And when I tell you, this man had a whole entire fit on me going out of state. Because he was like, oh, well, if you go out of state, you going to have to pay a whole lot more money if you go out of state and whatnot. Like no shit, Sherlock, I had to pay a whole lot more money because I'm an out-of-state student. Like you thinking that just because like you a student is out of state, they're not paying a whole lot of like more money and whatnot. Sorry, I had to like stretch and out my leg. So I told him that I wanted to go out of state, right? He looked at me and was like, all right. He literally looked at me and was like, okay, you're gonna have to pay a whole lot more money. And the reason why he's a hypocrite with this, guess who went out of state for his college? Him. He went all the way to Milwaukee for college. But he was having a grand meltdown of me going like, cause the college that I was going to commit to was in Massachusetts. He was so concerned about me being like 3 to 5 hours away that he couldn't deal with the fact that I was going out of state. Like, he wanted me in state. So of course I couldn't commit to the college that I originally wanted to commit to, because he, one, talked me out of going out of college out of state, and two, he refused to not help my mom secure the enrollment deposit for me to go to the college that I wanted to out of state. So with that being said, like, he's like the biggest like hypocrite that I know. Like, he will say one thing to you knowing that he did it himself, and he will make you feel bad for doing it even though he did it himself. Like, how is that supposed to work? Like, tell me, how is that supposed to work? Because I don't know how that's supposed to work. Like, again, like, I will love my father, but his ways and his tendencies is getting on my nerves. Like, there was an incident like a month ago now. I was gonna say a few weeks ago, but it's a month ago now because it happened back in January. And as I'm recording this video, we're in March. But there was an incident that, like, a few back in January, where he like took me on a day out, and he was like, so how do I say this? He was just like so different, because like, he doesn't understand me at all. I try to make him understand me. He does not want to understand me. Because, like, again, it's just exactly like the phone call. Uncomfortable silence. And, like, when you meet if you ever come across my father, his big thing, his whole entire personality is everything African culture. And, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love being black. I love our culture. But he makes his whole entire personality everything African culture, like the African history, the African Bible, but everything African. If he has done it, then he has done it, like, and whatnot. And like, I can't tell him about my interest of like me reading, like, you know, fantasy books, dark romance books, because he will sit there and shame me and say like, oh, well, I don't know why you're reading those types of books. You should be reading things of African culture. You should be knowledgeable on anything about our past and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, I can be knowledgeable, but I can still, like, you know, take time to like enjoy things that I'm reading and whatnot. Again, like, I don't want to seem like I'm like ridiculing him for his thing, but I love that he's like so fascinated with African culture. But it's like getting to the point where he's like so obsessed with everything African culture. And like, I seen in like read stories about like the real like about life in Africa. And like, don't get me wrong, like, Africa is like a beautiful continent, but at the same time, like, there are horror stories about Africa within there, and like, and whatnot. So it's just like, I don't know what to do with my father half the times. And like, and again, guys, like, I know that this is like all over the place, and like, you're like, okay, and whatnot, because like, when I talk about this, like, it goes all over the place when I'm discussing it, because that's just like the way it is. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Like, at this point, like, I'm just numb to the topic now. I'm numb to the topic, but yet, if I think about the topic too much, I literally burst down in tears. Like, I spent many nights crying over this when I was younger, and I still do occasionally to the day. But I'm hopeful, but I'm not as hopeful as before. So that's all I gotta say about it. But that's it for this story time video. Hopefully you guys enjoy the story time. Please make sure to give, if you haven't already, to drop a subscribe on me. Hopefully you guys have a great day/night wherever you may be are in the world, and make sure to drink your water, take your meds, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.